Hello. I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of NerdyVerse here from Nerd Herder. I am J-Dub.
And I am the artist formerly known as Boop.
And I have had... Today was my Multiverse of Madness. Have you seen that meme? Have you seen that trend on the social media? Today was my Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
I've had an insane day.
You really have. And, I'm honestly surprised you're upright.
I'm
proud of you.
Thank you. I need that. Yeah, I now know what it's like in a way. Like, after the credits roll on these MCU movies, what do they the scene with the shawarma in Avengers is so accurate of just feed me, give me a drink, and sit me down, because oh my gosh.
Give me a Thor to cry on, I beg of you.
The difference is my New York did not get saved. It was that kind of day.
Wow.
But all the more reason why I am very glad to be here. Which, of course, by the title, if you can read, or by my timely jokes with the kids, if you haven't gathered, we're talking about the Multiverse of Madness, the latest MCU movie to be released that we just recently saw in theaters. We hope you have seen. If you have not,
please,
why are you here?
It is worth every single second of your theater experience.
Absolutely. And there's no reason, pick a better podcast to get spoiled by if you're going to do that. Come on.
Go watch Proaxium.
Listen to the podcasts of our lovely guests that we're about to introduce for higher quality spoilage if you want. But that's your obligatory spoiler warning. You are about to get spoiled if you haven't seen it. If you have, buckle in, because we have some great guests. We're going to have some great conversation about a great movie.
Baby, we got opinions.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Very many. And we have guests in abundance. We have friend of the show, Kev, with us again. We keep him in the closet, pull him out on the hard nights, and you always pull us through, buddy.
Yeah, man. I'm fully stocked with juice boxes and a comfy blankie.
Yeah, you need us to change the litter box.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
That's your job. That's your job. I don't do it myself.
No, why would you? You are like a cat. You are too good to take care of yourself. Make the humans do it. I don't know where this bit is going, but I love you and I'm glad you're here.
I just like the idea that Kev lives at our house.
And new addition to the Nerd Herder lineup, and quite possibly the guest questioning his decision to join us tonight.
He gets the guest room, though.
Is the lovely Alden. He does get the guest room.
What up? Hey, I'm here for my universe. I'm not regretting this at all. I'm having a great time. I came in, there's snacks, hors d'oeuvres, and there's a nice guy offering me a warm towel. This is a great place.
That was probably Nick, the spirit of Nick Milky, who would have been with us tonight, leaving out snacks and all the goodies, taking care of us like a good dad. I wouldn't know what that's like, but I hear they're pretty great.
Neither would I.
Hey!
Let's unpack that instead of this movie.
This is about to take a very hard left.
I was going to say,
buckle up.
Let's turn this into real therapy.
The multiverse of trauma.
I mean, you almost could. I mean, if I've learned anything from the MCU, it's deal with your baggage or it will deal with you.
Especially this phase.
Right? Man, yes, this is the mental health phase, or mental crisis. Really, phase 5 will be the mental health. We'll bounce back. I'm sure.
Yeah, self-love phase.
Absolutely.
Dear God, I hope so.
Well, but yeah, so this was one I know we were particularly excited about. Not only for MCU, which I think we've talked about before. I like the MCU more for the MCU.
Yes.
You pick. It's a buffet to you. It's a 7-course meal to me. If that makes sense, right? Yeah,
fair.
It's like your consistent diet.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just snacking,
and
I'm okay with it.
And that, but what you like, you really, really like.
And I did. Yes. I will get into it more as we go along. But I'm a person. I don't feel the need to watch everything. I don't feel the need to, revisit the things that I didn't necessarily enjoy. So, getting stuff like Moon Knight, Multiverse of Madness, like that's chock-a-block full of crazy. I love that stuff. So of course I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a hippo. Like, come on, man.
Which, yes, we have to unpack Moon Knight at some point. But
Oh, man.
now, MCU was high on the list for you guys, hence your being here. And so for you, was this just a given, I'm going to watch it, or were you more compelled to check this one out? Because, I mean, it is the great and illustrious Sam Raimi returning to the helm of a superhero film. And so was that an extra in the deal for you, or what?
For me, it was kind of like obligatory, it's the next chapter, and I don't want to miss out, right? I had almost no expectations, which is typical for me. I don't necessarily go into films expecting anything.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, I mean, it's easier that way.
Oh,
because
yeah.
When you hype up what you expect to happen and what you want to happen, then when it doesn't, you're just like pissy the entire time.
And oh boy, hasn't that happened a little bit recently.
Oh man, I mean, tell me about it. So I was honestly, it took a few days. I had to sit with this movie for a few days and digest it and kind of let it ruminate a little bit. But the longer it sat with me, the more it affected me, which is not normal for an MCU movie. With an MCU movie, it's just like it's like getting jaw jacked right in the face. It's like, I liked it,
Yeah.
This one was like, once I processed it, I was like, wow, this is really affecting. This is like pulling on some deep core strings there. Yeah, that was my experience with it.
Yeah, I was sort of with you there, where I'm not going to miss any of them because at this point I'm engaged in the entire thing. I mean, I grew up reading Marvel comics. My thing as a child was I read Batman and all of Marvel. Where like Batman was my DC guy, but Marvel I liked everybody, and that changed over time where I started to pick up more DC. But Marvel was always more the characters that spoke to me, because DC characters are mythic; they're gods. They're, except for Bruce, which is the obvious connection there. But Bruce is a Marvel character stuck in the DC universe, whereas Marvel is the freaks. There, Peter Parker can't pay his bills. Bruce Banner has the rage issues. Reed Richards is an arrogant jerk. Like they've all got issues. They're all broken. Their powers are not because they are an Amazon or selected to be a space cop or the last son of a advanced race. It's because of explosions and experiments gone wrong. So I've always been more into the Marvel, and I've been an MCU fan since Iron Man 1. I was there. I remember reading on IGN, like, if you stay after the credits, there's a thing, like, because at the time that was,
revolutionary.
There was like the Ferris Bueller after credit scene,
obviously,
and Pirates 2 has one of the dog on the cannibal island, that the dog with the keys is there. So it's like after credit scenes had been done, but they had never been narrative, like they were never important.
They've never been required watching.
Exactly.
Right. So it changed everything. And I've grown up with it. I remember after my 8th grade formal going in my little tuxedo to see Iron Man 2. So like this has always been event stuff for me. So I was never going to miss it. That said, there was a particular level of more excitement, because some of them you go in and you're like, I'm excited. I'm reasonably like interested, and I hope it's great. Like Shang-Chi, and you get surprised and you're like, that was great.
Yeah.
But some of them, you're like, I know that this is going to be a banger, or that it's even if it's not, it's at least going to make choices. And oh boy, this one was obviously the return of Raimi, but it already has Strange is one of my favorite MCU characters. I think that Benedict is one of my favorite actors working today. I loved WandaVision. Everything seemed to be set up for a feast here. Like it had everything. It had all the momentum going. Elfman coming back. Like it just had all the momentum to be something really special. And they nailed it. And like Kev, like when the movie was over, I knew I loved it. I did feel sort of that punch to the face of wow. But I also was like, this movie is smart. Like there's a lot going on.
That's exactly it, man. It leaves you with a lot to chew on. Like you've got to process some stuff, because like without jumping too far ahead, one of the things that affected me long term was everyone asking Stephen Strange if he's happy.
Yeah.
And he keeps essentially lying. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. You know? And then the more I thought about that, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's me to a T. Like, hey, Kev, you happy? Yeah, I'm fine. You know? And it's kind of like, it speaks to the phase 4 of the MCU. Like, I think that after Endgame and you've done the biggest spectacle, right? You've done the biggest thing you could possibly do. What direction do you take it in? You go more granular. You figure out, you start unpacking these characters and what they're carrying. And that's been really apparent in phase 4. And I think that's probably why I'm maybe more invested now than I ever have been.
It's true. It's more, this is more of an opera than it is a, like it's not that the first 3 phases didn't have character. Of course they did. That's why we loved the characters by the time Endgame happens. But it reminds me of something that, you know, this man's character notwithstanding, something that Joss Whedon said when he was making Age of Ultron, which is that for a sequel to move on with these characters, especially after Avengers changes the world, Battle of New York, all this stuff, you can't necessarily always try to get bigger. You have to cut deeper. And what this phase has done is, like, I mean, Black Widow is about, you know, the agency of women. Moon Knight is about, you know, DID and abuse and farts, I guess, too. I guess, yeah. And that could be personal. But this entire phase has sort of leaned into that in such a strong way. And so to do that with Strange, who was the character that seemed to be the most in control, right? From our perspective, in Infinity War and Endgame, he was the guy that knew how to make the long play, that had the trust, that knew it would work out. But then this one starts with that other doctor at the wedding saying, you know, I lost my brother, I lost my cats. This is like, was it the only way? And Steven's like, yeah, of course it was. Yeah. Until he gets to another universe, and it wasn't. But the movie doesn't answer either way, because maybe that was the only way in that universe, you know. So
that's Reagan, babe.
I know. That's Reagan.
I love Reagan so much.
Shout out to our live audience. If you're not in the live chat with this, you're missing a key factor in nerd content. Not to detract from the conversation, but you know, like, we were joking about it, but absolutely, you know, we talked a couple of weeks ago with Andy from Force Friends and from Ending Pending Podcast. Great personality, great person.
Fantastic,
and we talked about X-Men with them, and the idea that coming into those films, they have such a story and representation to live up to, and how they kind of set apart from what the classic MCU is, because of the, like, you don't do an X-Men story without an intent to engage a subject matter. Right? You're not just trying to entertain or do spectacle or do the punch in the face. You're trying to say something. And we definitely started with spectacle. We definitely started with action. We started with entertainment with Marvel in the first couple of phases. By the 3rd phase, when it really started to get real, and like you said, Alden, as we started to cut deeper with the characters, this is the next step of where I think we're telling some of the most personal and most interesting to me, for sure, stories where it's like the greatest battleground being the character of the characters, rather than the global scale.
And you could argue, like, the moral standing of these characters. Like, it's very clear in most of this movie to see who is in the right in this particular scenario. We have
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
Pizza Papa is the protagonist.
Pizza Papa.
He's a Pizza Papa. He always
delightful.
Can I just say, I've missed Bruce Campbell.
Yes,
I miss him so much. The fact that, like, obviously, like, there was no chance in hell he wouldn't be in it, but the fact that he gets his hand turned on him, it is the best meta thing I've ever seen. It's so funny.
I appreciate that Raimi really brought Raimi to this project.
Absolutely.
Raimi brought Raimi to this project more than any of his Spider-Mans.
Sure.
Like, because everyone always goes to Doc Ock, and which is a great Raimi scene when Doc Ock comes to life, and, like, that's great. But this was Raimi saying, look, it's been what 8 years, or 8 or 9 years since Oz the Great and Powerful. And it's like, that man didn't want to go out on that. Like that was a very studio sort of movie.
Oh
and,
yeah,
it was a fun movie, but like,
yeah.
Well,
This has style. Like every single time that he could have made a safer choice, he makes a weird choice every time.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and that's what I so love about this era too, is this is very creator driven.
Yeah.
More than ever, we're getting very unique. I mean, you mentioned Shang-Chi, even we're getting even laced with personal experience. Like so much heart is coming through in the content. And I'm not saying that Iron Man didn't have heart. I know Jon Favreau loved what he created. He created something great and started something great. I think it's just the heart applied different ways.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
And so, this era of personal stories, we're having the person come through. And that comes to everything from the style of the film, but also to the journey as well, I think. I love that people are getting to create and leave their fingerprint on things. And that applies to a lot of what they're doing, with modern storytelling. Disney Plus with Star Wars is doing the same thing, I think, where we're finally seeing someone else's thumbprint. And I really think it started with Ryan really paving the way of, this is a Rian Johnson Star Wars. This isn't I'm trying to do George Lucas. This is uniquely me, and this is uniquely Raimi, and it's better for it.
It needed it for because like some characters are new, so the lens can start as personal, like with Shang-Chi or like with Chloe Zhao on Eternals or what have you. But you end up in this place with someone like Strange, where it's like he had a solo movie, which I like. I really like the first one a lot. I like it a lot actually. And he was in this 2 Avengers films, and he was in Ragnarok for his little scene. But we had known his journey from the beginning, but it was almost like point B, right? It just went from point B to C. We never really got Steven's damage. We knew what kind of guy he was, but like with the easy parallel to make that they did make in Infinity War to great success is Stark and Strange, and how they're so similar that they clash. But the problem is that we knew why Tony Stark was the way he was, because we knew Howard, because we had got the backstory of First Avenger, because we knew what kind of world we were in. That first movie does so much with Obadiah Stane and like really telling you why Tony Stark is a narcissist. You get Pepper there, somebody that knows the real him. With Strange, we had Christine, and we knew they had history, but we had yet to learn. And this movie does so much in terms of it's like it is the multiverse of madness. It does have epic cameos. It does have really weird choices. It has all this stuff, but it's still about Strange, and then right under Strange, Wanda, of course. And you get things like Strange mentioning that he had a sister that died when they were children and he couldn't save her. And it's like, I get this guy now. Like this guy's control complex and wanting to be and being this great doctor comes from such a personal place. And I love that. Kev, you mentioned the "Are you happy" motif. I love that this also puts the watch to bed, that he finally fixes it and puts it back into his collection.
Yep.
Because that first movie uses the watch in such a profound way of, you can't always fix what's broken, your hands and your talent, and you need to be able to accept what you cannot change. But this one takes that and like pours water on it and gives it sunlight, and it grows into, maybe you can fix it eventually, but you have to move on.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good point.
And so you can eventually do it, but you can't have, I want to fix my hands, I want Christine, I want.
Yeah.
You got to, she's married now, dude. And in the other universe it didn't work. And over here, and it's okay to love, but like he starts this movie by being at a woman's wedding telling her, I wish it worked out between us. Steven, wrong time, my friend. Wrong time.
Of everything that happened, that interaction tensed me up, I think, more than anything.
It's so cringy,
dude.
It's so
I'm
awkward.
I don't know why. Like, and it's meant to portray like all these other opportunities you had to make it right.
Yeah.
And the push to take the next right opportunity, and of course he goes for this is it, and this whole thing is very much second in a trilogy kind of way of it's not going to work out the way you think it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with, like you mentioned, the watch as the allegory for his journey. It doesn't, you can't fix it with what it's got existing, right?
Yeah.
You've got
Needs
to
a new piece, a new
right,
glass.
a new piece, a new plan. It's not going to be exactly the same, but you are going to end up with a better result.
Yeah.
Um,
It's even there on the Cloak of Levitation. The Cloak of Levitation gets a blue patch to fix
Right.
the hole and everything. It's just that splash
Exactly.
of color, and even how Steven changes. I mean, in funny ways, like finally bowing to Wong. But even at the end, he asks Wong if Wong's happy.
Yeah.
And Wong sort of like, he reacts like, I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Like, that's the kind of stuff that these people that are all about duty, they haven't. They haven't. Thank you.
We're a serious podcast here.
These people haven't taken the time to really do, and again, tying in with Phase 4, to do the work personally. And so much of it, like, you know, like Boop was saying about who's right, is evident to us. But the brilliance of the story is that it doesn't have a villain; it has an antagonist. Everybody in this movie, whether it's Strange, or really Strange and Wanda, it's the battle of who thinks they're right, which is way more interesting than good and evil. And she, like, I've compared her to Anakin so many times.
Yes.
What she wants is she's right to want it, just like he was right to want love and his mother and all that stuff. Of course, she's right to want her children. They're children, but it's the danger is justifications, false equivalencies, and it's a slippery slope. So you open up that book because it's like maybe I could figure it out, and then that makes it easier and easier and easier and easier to make the next wrong choice. So at the beginning of the movie, when she says about America, who's great, and she says she's not a child, she's a magical being, and then Steven's like, you made your kids out of magic. Like, she's already, she's writing her own narrative and making every excuse for herself. And she's in pain, which you're ought to do when you're in pain, but the movie doesn't give you easy outs. And she's also right about a lot of things. She's not wrong that there's hypocrisy. She's not wrong. Even at the end, he has to be a hypocrite to beat her. So it's like,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you know, she's gone full manic. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm
like, I as someone who has experienced manic episodes, like, I see where she's at, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get you there. I've never, like, personally killed a bunch of people in a manic episode. That I'll admit. But
Boop's got bodies.
Not surprised.
That out there.
Not surprised.
For the FBI agent listening in our home.
This is a family podcast, so I'm not going to make that joke, but I'll let the podcast listeners make it for me. But yeah, like, I, as someone who has talked myself out of, you know, a lot of very negative scenarios by saying it doesn't have to be like this. I don't have to live like this. I can see the justification with Wanda being like, there's an opportunity for a better life here.
Right.
If I could just get there through any means possible.
The transition from WandaVision to this, right? It's like, I think that I got
make my perfect day happen.
Right. And I said on Twitter, and I understand maybe that I could have worded it better. I don't know. I still stand by it. Is the idea that I think the ending of WandaVision is misread. And that's not to say that only my interpretation of it is right, but I think that it was taken as, okay, I'm going to drop the Westview facade. I'm going to let Vision and these children go that I've made in my mind. And that suddenly was the end. But it's like, no, but she also just found out that she's this being of prophecy that was foretold and has all of this great power. And then it's like, so I'm going to let the people go in Westview because that's wrong. And I get that. But there's another way. And like, that's what people, when they feel they're backed into a corner, they'll take any out.
Absolutely.
And it just felt like, and again, when you're doing a serialized narrative, that's going to go on presumably until movies aren't being made anymore, or we're all dead, or both. Is, you know, they have to stumble a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sympathetic to people that feel like Wanda was mishandled. I can be sympathetic to that. But at the same time, she's one of the first real tragic characters we've had in the MCU. You know, and it's funny because you bring up the Westview thing, and yeah, she did. She pivoted because when you're in pain and you're looking for that balm, you'll go to any lengths to get it. I mean, especially if you're like in the middle of an episode, right? Like when you bring up mania, when you're manic, you will justify anything, anything, because in your brain it's like makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's no veil between oh, this makes perfect sense, and then the action, you know, and then you come to and you're like, wow.
And I understand too, to your point about being sympathetic to the criticism. I am like, I get why it's jarring. I get why it's disappointing. And I get why, if you love this woman and you identify with her, why this hurts.
Sure.
I just resent the notion that a story can't do that. Like, I think that because we live in the internet age of that's my comfort character. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but there are characters that exist. And when you latch on, it's one thing to latch on to a character from a classic novel from the 1800s or 1920s or something, where that's a finite piece. Like if you latch onto something, it's the same thing with Daenerys Targaryen. And I'm not saying they're executed the same, but I am saying that you latched onto a character and a thing that was ongoing.
Evolving. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it had every possibility of going south. And some people argue, oh, well, if it's the Darkhold, if the Darkhold's doing it, then that takes away the agency of the character. And it's like, well, no, because it's like the dark side in Star Wars, this thing that we all love.
Right. You still relinquish power to
exactly.
Right. You're still making choices. It's just it's the reason why Batman won't kill. He's like, because if I killed, he's like, I think about it. He said in comics, like, I think about it. I could just kill the Joker, but then that'll make it easier to just kill Two-Face. Right. And that'll make it easier to just kill the Penguin.
And I can definitely, I mean, the first thing, like when we walked out fully out of the theater, by the way, get your theater etiquette under control, people.
Please.
Golly. But when we fully exited and we're in our private vehicle and had a private conversation about the film, the first thing I did say was, I'm not sure about Wanda. And that being because, you know, WandaVision was so important to me, I think, as an exploration of a character, grief, all of that. And overall, just the idea of having power and yet still not knowing what to do to make it better, or if you could even, right? I have all of this power. You say I'm the Scarlet Witch, but how can that help me? But absolutely ending at that point of, all right, I'm going to focus in, right? So Westview was this big, widespread expression of grief. She was going to focus in, and that's what that like after credits, I think, with WandaVision was this, all right, I'm going to let go of the big picture, like you said, and hone in. And so that's when she zeroes in on, what do I want? I want my kids. I can have that for sure. And I don't think this film, or maybe I'm just choosing, because I've already explained my bias, but maybe I'm choosing to see that this film isn't trying to make her the complete villain.
No. Yeah.
She is still the tragic case.
Absolutely. Because it's also a battle against nature. It's a nature nurture thing where on her end, it's Agatha telling her, you're the Scarlet Witch, you're this thing, I wanted to confirm it, that's why I tested you, blah, blah, blah. And you are. And you're in the Darkhold. And then Wong reveals that, well, the Darkhold is just the copied manuscript of Mount Wundagore, which was a total nerd moment for me when he says, it's a copy. There is a mountain. I was like, Mount Wundagore. Like, ooh, they're gonna do it.
Validation.
Nerd. The comics in the Marvel Encyclopedia. And
we can joke.
Podcast, everyone.
We can joke because we are those nerds. Okay.
That's true.
Like, don't come for us.
I carried around the Marvel Encyclopedia in elementary school, a book that was way too big to be lugging by hand everywhere. I'm subtweeting myself though that time too. I'm
telling you, man.
So like, then you go to Wundagore, and it's like, not only are the spells from Wundagore, but she's carved into it. So that's the universe saying, hey, you're always going to be this. You were always going to be this awful, heinous being. On the flip, you look at our title character with Steven, and it turns out every universe's Steven is at the end of the day an egotistical pragmatist who will hurt people because of the grand calculus of the multiverse. Like he was about to murder America at the beginning, someone who was his friend. Then we find out the 838 Strange also, they beat Thanos, but he also goofed. So the both of them are being told you will always be this thing. And they have to, and they're very different, but they have to defy sort of what they've been told, which is why I've always resented the criticism that WandaVision comes down to a magic energy battle, because that's maybe what's happening. But the meat of it is one woman is telling this other woman who's grieving, you're this, you're just this, you're just this, you'll never be anything but this, you're evil. And that all arcs perfectly, I think, into this movie.
Well, I would agree. And my thing too is that, right? Like if you remember WandaVision in the context of this woman going on a journey of grief and ending at the point of acceptance, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and pull an Alden and say, no, but like you've got to take into account, like you said, the effects of and the trauma of Agatha are very much still present in Wanda in this film.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that is unresolved and that is influential.
Also worth noting that Agatha is passing on her own trauma. She was also victimized.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to burn her at the stake, her own family. So
it's all that perpetuating context where it's not necessarily excusing, it's explaining, and it's offering an opportunity of choice. And this film was getting Wanda backed into the corner of choice again. And no, I don't think she's done. I'm just putting that out there. I don't
0% chance.
No.
Yeah, no.
I definitely think this is an ending point for this part of the journey. We're going she's gonna circle back around, absolutely.
Has to. I mean, there's too much, like on a nerd level, it's like first, like themes wise and journey wise, and I don't think she's done. Visually, there's the red magic when the mountain goes down. And then the biggest thing is that the Billy and Tommy storyline is still not over, and the White Vision storyline still isn't over. So it's like
there's too many threads they have to pull on. Too many threads.
And so for me, like as an advocate of traumatizing your characters, as an advocate of very realistic and grounded experiences for characters, because that's ultimately, I'm biased. That's what reaches me. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Luke in The Last Jedi talked to me a lot more than Luke ever did in the original trilogy, and I won't apologize for that. And
nor should you.
In the same way, Wanda, like falling in love with her journey, seeing yourself and feeling represented in her journey of grief and her journey of gaslighting and her journey of trauma is perfectly good, valid, and okay. And it's understandable to be hurt that she's still experiencing this cycle as a character. That doesn't throw any of the progress away, and it doesn't necessarily box her into that is who she is and was and all that. There's so much more, right? Oh, yeah. And I think that's the big thing. There's only a period on it as the end of her story if you put that there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's just me talking to the Wanda stans out there. Did I use that word right?
Yes, you did. Okay. I'm proud of you.
Like, because again, like that was my first reaction. Like I was pretty into it everywhere else, but Wanda stood out for me, and I had to ponder why that is.
Yeah.
And for me, it just ended at that point where I think I boxed that character in. I was like, okay, well, so she's lost cause and everything like that, but that's so anti to her journey.
Right. She's always oscillated between the light and dark. I mean, people forget that she debuts in the MCU as a villain.
Yeah, well, and her journey's always been about misunderstanding her application of power. Right, Civil War. You know, she was the fulcrum to that situation.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And even before that, I mean, she unleashes the Incredible Hulk on a city ruthlessly while she was still working for Ultron, and then we see what her childhood was like in Sokovia, and it's like, okay, well, there's always going to be those justifications, and that well, where did it really start? Oh, well, Darth Vader was a slave when he was 9 years old, and it's like now we get this man, but at the same time, you know, so it's just a really elegant way of not coming down either way.
Yeah, and to that point too, I love the inner journey we get for a moment, because that's very Anakin from the comics. If you read like Charles Soule's Darth Vader,
Oh yeah.
that like inner prison of her memories and her trauma, like keeping Wanda down and letting the Scarlet Witch take hold. That absolutely is an Anakin Vader.
And what a perfect,
vibe.
perfect Xavier scene too.
Oh my god!
So, let's dive. We've talked about Scarlet Witch a lot. I could make this a Scarlet Witch podcast.
Oh yeah,
but the Illuminati.
The Illuminati. Okay, so my first reaction to
Our
this
theater
was,
erupted.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why are they called the Illuminati? But then Reed Richards showed up.
Yeah.
And my tiny mind exploded.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's Jim. Why is Jim here?
Can I just put out there, like, that's where it peaked for me. And I'm not talking about like quality. I'm not talking about like, but like at that point, I never got more excited than I did when that happened.
Well, like I said, on our way home from the movie, like I felt like this movie just kept getting better, and like my enjoyment of it just kept ratcheting up with every single moment.
Same here.
And like,
oof, it's got one of the best third acts in an MCU film, I think, because it's and what's great is that this movie easily a lesser version of this movie would have just sold itself on those Illuminati cameos. They are about 10 minutes in the middle, and then that's not. And by the end of it, like you still think about them. We're still talking about them, but the movie never stops being about Steven and Wanda.
And absolutely, this is definitely a in between moment and everything. And it was just it did what it was supposed to do, I think, and it was wise on Raimi to like, I'm gonna throw a bone. This is,
this is for the Marvel stands.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, because going full force into the No Way Home territory of like all the cameos. Well, we did that. We all collectively lost our minds.
It was spectacular.
And it was great, and it served the story, right? Those cameos absolutely served the story. And this did the same thing, but it was the right amount of it.
Yeah, like, well, and then am I the only one that felt like this was the most comic book thing to happen in this film?
No, it was absolutely
like this felt like a little mini bit of
every
series coming in.
Every like tiny detail, like it wasn't just Charles Xavier. It was Charles Xavier in the green suit, in the yellow chair. You could see the mind waves.
Yes,
oh my God.
Yes,
the circle mind waves and the when he came on. I lost it.
That got me. Hearing the theme, I did like. I think it was because that was so teased, but like it was the theme that got me. I'm like, no, this is Charles Xavier.
It took me a minute to pick up on the theme. I was like, are they doing? They're doing it. They're doing it.
So
well, I felt bad for the people around us because like all throughout that was just a bunch of like us like throttling each other of
and then small things like Reed saying that he has kids and Christine saying she worked for the Baxter Foundation, and there's like little things like that where it just felt like, and again, the cleverness of this is that it was that one of those fan casting things that everybody wanted, that everybody talks about, that interviewers would ask him about. But the brilliance of doing it on Earth 838 is that no one has to commit to anything. This could be Patrick Stewart's last bow. If Krasinski doesn't want to do a whole franchise contract, he doesn't have to. He could be a Reed Richards instead of being the Reed Richards. Even Captain Carter, it's like, is that the Captain Carter from What If? I don't know. Like,
see, they could, Alden, but like,
I think he will do it. What I think they'll do is what I think they'll do is he'll probably shave, and I think it'll be Reed earlier in the Fantastic Four career than like no kids, no beard, that type of thing.
It was interesting because this, in addition to, like I said, it fit that vibe of the cliffhanger of a comic book. It felt like so much of an Marvel moment. But at the same time, it also felt like the MCU obligation. This was the big thing that interconnected it. Like if you take this out, it's its own very condensed and heavy story. I felt
right. Yeah, and this also like gives you again to those Steven themes. Like the reason why this group is important thematically is because they revealed that truth of what the supposedly greatest Strange did. Of that 838 Strange, where it's like he did beat Thanos. He was, dream walking, and he did find the way and everything, but at the same time we had to kill him. And Steven is confronted with the group that he assembled at the height of his powers that are ruthless and arrogant, which is why they die. Because Reed Richards in the comics is always so smart he's dumb. And he's so smart that he doesn't know what's going on. And for him to announce that Black Bolt could kill her with it's like you just blew it, pal.
Okay, so that's when it became a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah,
full force was
from that point on. It continued heavy in his style. Like, I think he played us into a corner of like I said, this was the all right, I'm gonna connect it. I'm gonna throw out some cameos. This is gonna be the thing. This would have seeing Reed Richards, seeing Charles Xavier would have been the thing we ended a film on 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And here it is in the middle of your movie.
Yeah.
But from this point on, it's like, all right, I'm done. I've done the obligations. Now it's my movie.
Now it's my movie again, and I'm going to kill every single one of them.
That's exactly the way. Like, the first half of the movie is Spider-Man. The second half is Evil Dead.
Yeah. And can I felt so let down. I expected one of those evil spirit things to just give us a little swallow your soul. My God, missed opportunity.
I did love though that this is jumping way ahead, but I loved two things, and I've said this before. I think I said it on someone else's show. I can't remember where I say things anymore.
You heard it here. Alden only loves two things.
That's true. When he first of all possesses his own corpse, which is amazing.
Oh my God.
And then when he forms the cloak of the damned souls, so you have a zombie, first of all, a practically done zombie, mostly.
Yes.
I mean, obviously they had to CG the mouth a little, but a mostly practically done zombie Strange flying to the tune of shredding electric guitar.
Yes.
Off to Mount Wundagore to fight. It's like the most metal album cover, ridiculous. He even winks at America, but at the camera. And Christine, when she grabs the cauldron, she's like, "Go back to hell!" It goes full camp, and I loved it. I mean,
I know
the music note fight that's out of Fantasia is
okay. That moment, I had to grab you and be like, "This is so creative."
Yes,
this is the most creative thing I've ever seen in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And I love that it's so wild yet it fits. It's different and crazy and interesting, but I don't feel like if you stack it up against anything else we've seen, it would feel necessarily out of place.
If you check out of your own brain and just have fun for once in your damn life, just turn off your brain in scenes like that.
I did love the Raimi isms that we got towards the end and everything, and seeing a very Raimi zombie makeup return was so evil Ash. I mean, it was so good. And that's the big thing for me is I love the transition that this does, that we've talked about, that move from Marvel movie to Sam Raimi movie without feeling like it was a hijacked thing.
No,
right?
Not at all. It felt 100% pure, if that makes sense. Pure uncut Sam Raimi while also being pure Marvel as well. And like you mentioned, that moment where he made the cloak out of the damned souls and then the hands opened up, that was breathtaking. Even though it was all in all of the trailers, I was blown away by that scene. It looked so
because
good.
The context is the trailers did a really good job of making you think, intentionally or otherwise. We saw Zombie Strange in the thing, and I think a lot of us assumed, I did, that Zombie Strange would be a 30-second thing, that it was just going to be a small cameo of the zombie version from What If. And then when he buried the corpse of Defender Strange at the beginning of the movie, I didn't even think about it.
No.
I didn't even. And then when they tee it up and he's like, "Who says it has to be alive?" I was like, "Oh, wow, he's gonna do it."
It was and I loved the thunderclap, the stereotypical.
It comes out of the hand out of the ground and everything.
Oh my gosh,
amazing,
so good,
amazing.
But I love that it just leads him to the point of getting there to, pass the torch to America, right?
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
he doesn't do all of that to end up there to have this epic battle.
Just to kick her ass. And America, and I've seen the criticism like, and I want to clear this up because this is not opinion based. This is just fact based. This is just how the movie went. People say, oh, Steven just gives her a pep talk and she learns how to use her powers. That's not true. No. She learned how to use her powers when she was trapped in the cell on Earth 838. She harnessed it out of her anger of punching. Exactly. Steven was just giving her the permission to hone them in the moment. Exactly. So I want to clear that up. But when she does it though, even that could have been a now kick her ass, like star punch. No. And it doesn't happen. The movie never shies away from the fact that they've made Wanda unbeatable. Wanda has to choose to stop.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I enjoy about each of the characters. Each of the characters reach their penultimate moment in this film. They've got more to go, obviously, with any of them, but here they reach it by choice, right? Steven reaches it by choice, I think, by, like you mentioned, and we've talked about a bit, the revelation of this is your trend, right? Like, how do you work against that trend, right? Every other you failed and learned nothing. You have this moment to learn before failure, right? Wanda, it's moving her into that point again of choice. And I really, really enjoy that. I've just got to point out, films need to do better about audio sensitive people and delivering of lines.
Because
the Wanda thing.
I didn't catch that line. I thought she said something in Sokovian. And she was like, "No, they will be loved." And I
you were like, "That's an interesting choice."
Right? There's no subtitles.
But I love this very. I mean, that's really what was happening. I love this very literal translation of "It's a war with herself." Really, right?
Yeah.
Like,
she's given this righteous fury because of motherhood, which she points out. Released Mother's Day weekend, by the way. And I know that wasn't intentional because it was delays, but it couldn't have worked out better.
No.
But it's maternal love that gets her to stop. It's the same motivation for the ravenous rage and for the reconciliation.
Yeah, it's definitely same heart behind it, different application. And same for America. I feel like it was getting her to the point of choosing to do what she knows she can do, and that's what I felt like Strange was teeing her up for, is making the choice to do what she knew she could do, wanted to do, and setting her up as a key figure.
I mean, the entire pep talk was essentially, you already have what you need,
right?
Like you're good. You can take care of this.
I mean, like,
go wild, kid.
We could get crazy. We could Rey went and faced Palpatine because of a pep talk. Like, you could dissect
Luke
anything
Skywalker
any way you want.
But that's not too far fetched, man. That's not too far fetched. Like,
no,
we see that in our own personal lives all the time. You find yourself with something seemingly insurmountable, and you just put yourself in the right headspace. And I hate to get like banal with it, but like powerlifting, you're looking at a deadlift bar with weight you've never touched before, and everything in your brain is saying that's not moving.
So true.
Can't relate.
So true.
Yeah, but it is. It's banal, but it's like it's the same thing. You get yourself in the right headspace, it will move. Like, you will move that
these
thing.
Nuts, man.
Yeah.
Family show, huh?
Yeah, family show.
Oh, love that.
Like, grab on.
It's we're approaching 10 o'clock. Kids,
it's fine. Put the kids to bed.
Exactly. Why are you up, child?
But you're not wrong, and that's something that I love about this phase of Marvel too, is that Shang-Chi, yes, he does actually kick the dragon's ass, but the reason why he's able to do that is because his dad finally comes to a moment of understanding.
Yes.
And decides to love his kids again, something he hadn't done since their past traumas. And it's that Shang-Chi is able to go from the fists of his father's style to the open hand of his mother's style that he's able to beat. So you have that. Eternals comes down to a family disagreement. Like, Kingo refuses to fight, says, I agree with him, but I won't kill for it. Yeah. He goes off the reservation because of his trauma, and this one has their own trauma. This one wants to be a real person. Like, it's just everybody about perspectives. Truly. Yeah. Moon Knight also comes down to, like, yes, there's ass kicking, but it comes down to
it's soulful ass kicking.
It is soulful ass kicking. There was a soulful kaiju battle in Moon Knight while this guy had to figure out
kaiju
who he
fight
was.
Is soulful.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but like again, I don't think there's anything. If it's at the very least, it's just a choice.
Yeah,
it's presenting through a pep talk, maybe information we need to hear and we already really know, but coming from someone other than ourselves, that leads a person to a choice. At most, it's this profound and amazing moment, right? Either way, I think I can speak for all of us in that Xochitl Gomez is an amazing addition. I cannot wait for more American
spectacular.
So
Avengers.
To tear into our closing here, because it does have to end. I apologize. I am sorry.
I disagree.
After show.
The free side. The free side. Join our Patreon, $5 right now. We'll go another half hour for every $5. No, but what's next is the big thing on my mind. I mean, obviously we get the after credits. We get Charlize Theron.
Okay, yeah.
Clea.
This is the first time like someone's been cast in the MCU where I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, if it's just with Charlize, but for me, it was very much not this interesting character. I was instantly hit with who was playing it. I don't know, but like either way, where we're going from here, because like I said, the most interconnected I think was the multiverse, like Illuminati stuff. Everything else kind of was its own little journey. So like where do you see, or where do you want the MCU to go from here? Obviously we've got Thor coming up, so
yes, we do.
I love anything Taika touches.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because like I think you could draw a direct line between this movie and a potential Avengers 5, because incursion is the big thing that Clea says. You cause an incursion, which, as we know, is a universe collapsing and colliding with another universe, which is what Supreme Strange had caused in the 838 universe, which is why they axed him. So this could be your way of bringing in X-Men, bringing in whatever. Like, there's real world stuff, but it's like, is this going to lead to Doctor Strange 3? Is it going to lead to Avengers 5? Is it going to lead to Loki season 2? Is it going to lead to Midnight Suns, which is the thing that I've been touting? Because for people watching that don't know, Midnight Suns is slowly being set up. They haven't said that, but you have Blade in the Eternals after credits with Dane Whitman, who becomes the Black Knight. That's why he has that sword. You have Doctor Strange. You have Clea. Sometimes Scarlet Witch is on that roster. You have Moon Knight now. This October, they're doing Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus. So it's like, oh, look at this. Like, wait, hold on, Reagan. Really genuine question. Are you talking about Charlize or are you talking about Rachel McAdams? Or both?
Charlize.
Charlize.
So
I think it's too early to tell, I'd say.
So the comment for our listeners after the fact is the chemistry, the testing the chemistry a little bit more. I agree Martin it's a little Freeman. Early, but again, I'm biased.
Yes, Martin Freeman and everything.
I knew instantly I was just caught up in who it was. I haven't really had that moment before. I didn't even have that with Chris Evans with Captain America, of like, I'm lingering on the actor and I can't see the character. And I just don't know, because there has been this Theron renaissance going on, right?
Like Renaissance, yes.
Like she's popping up everywhere, and I don't know if that's why it's stuck on me. I don't know if it'll be stuck on me in 2 years when she shows up again. I just don't know.
I think I said to you after we left the theater, I don't know who that is, but Charlize Theron is hot. Like,
yeah, I mean, well, first of all, correct. I think that it's about, I mean, it's going to come down to writing. Like, it's going to, like everything, it's going to come down to how they play, how they work with the overall setting. And
because I mean, throwing out there, like, I've seen so many people instantly just on the, all right, well, they're ending up together, right? Like,
Whatever.
knows?
I don't know.
Like,
which is possible, which like there's precedent for, but at the same time, the MCU doesn't have to necessarily follow what the comics do.
right, and
No.
so
There's
their
one
their
person
whole
that knows where
dynamic
this is
could be
going.
different.
Yeah, there's one person that knows where this is going, and that's Kevin
Jesus.
Feige.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
There's
and that's
two
the thing.
people
Like,
that know where this is going. There's 3 people.
There's 3. Well, I don't know. Do we believe in the Trinity here? 4 people.
Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there another Trinity?
I mean,
right.
But like, I mean,
Luke,
it's
Han,
a
and
fair
Leia.
point, right? Because like I had the same thought when I left the movie theater. I was like, okay, where's this going? Because like with Phase 1 Marvel, we knew where that was heading.
Yeah.
When Phase 2 came out, we knew exactly where that was going.
Yeah.
Phase 3, we knew exactly where that was going. This one, this phase, we don't know.
It's the most ambiguous. Much like the MCU, Reagan continues to be ambiguous as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the most decompressed. Like we never had shows in there that extends things out, and so I think that things will be abundantly more clear come February when Ant-Man 3 comes out, because Kang is the villain of Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
So that'll tie in directly with Loki.
And that's my biggest like anchor right through all of this thought process, because we're gonna do it as fans, right? But like I keep coming back to, it seems open-ended, but there is a through thread. And so that's the biggest thing for me is, I mean, like, I agree with Kevin. Like, this has been the most where it ends and I don't know where we're going. That is what makes it the most interesting, but that also is the thing I'm trying to fight against as a fan of trying to fill in that gap. Well, surely they want it to go here.
Yeah.
And I realized that I asked a question of where are they going? Well, I'm also trying to advocate for like speculating responsibly. But like, I think the big thing is, you know, like for me, this is the most like free and giddy I've been with Marvel in a long time. And I think I'm in a place of like, I don't know what to expect, but I do hope, like Brad mentioned in the chat, like I do hope we get a different Strange, or at least a slightly tweaked Strange after this, like someone changed by their choices. I hope we get a lot of hard pivots like they did with Thor, of like after this experience, they are completely different. And for me, even more relatable. Strange is way more relatable here and where he ends than he was in the first one for me.
Especially coupled with No Way Home, which while he doesn't remember, obviously, that he worked with Peter, he does remember that he worked with Spider-Man. So for people that were confused about that spell, it's sort of what I thought they were going to do.
A one-line answer there.
Everybody, everyone's memories. Like if you asked any Avenger who was there when you fought Thanos, they would remember Spider-Man. They just don't remember that they know who he is. So that's finally clarified. But with Spider-Man and with America, we've seen this Strange who's like becoming this paternal figure. I loved at the end when she's like, "Hey, I made sparks," and he's like, "That's great. Like, your parents will be really proud of you. Like, and one day they'll know." And all that stuff,
which is great, man.
We didn't even talk about how like just seamlessly they tie in there. That like I don't know comics. What are comics? I don't know. I don't know if that was always there, but her having 2 moms and just that like subtle.
That is a thing. But yes, it's great that they kept it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. So see, like I loved that just the normalcy of that. Like, let's continue to stroll and have our conversation. We're not going to linger on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's perfectly normal.
It's not like I have 2 moms.
Love
Here's
is
how
love.
it affected me.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that.
And like she's like her being motivated by wanting to find them, but not wanting to have hope that they're still out there, and Strange sort of having to be the one that's like, well, it could still be done, because he's been at the end of his rope. And before he learned the mystic arts, he had no hope, and so he has to sort of impart that in the next generation in the same way that Clint did with Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, and they're both young Avengers. Like the Avengers now have a responsibility to sort of fostering, and we'll see it with Ms. Marvel, because she loves Carol and looks up to Carol, and
I really enjoyed seeing a Doctor Strange that was sensitive, because when you juxtapose Stephen Strange with Tony Stark as a paternal figure, Tony Stark was lacking a little bit when it came to certain areas. So it's nice to see them, you know, give give Stephen Strange a little bit of a softer edge. He doesn't have to be so like, figure it out, kid.
Well, right. Well, I love that we've grown beyond the direct parallel of, white guy with cool goatee, like it typecast, like, they are very different. And while I never explicitly boxed them in like that, I definitely seeing them to interact on screen and in game and everything like that definitely did start that process. But I appreciate how quickly it pulled the rug out from me. And this film especially, where like, no, they are not. He is not just the next Tony. He is his own character, very unique journey, and one I'm excited to see continue. I don't want to be that person of like, oh, JJ's got to keep making Star Wars. Ryan's got to keep making Star Wars. Like
Raimi needs to watch. He needs to make more Star Wars.
I would like him to do more
movies in general.
I definitely don't want to, like I said, box him in. Like,
I will. I will. Kevin Feige needs to chain him to a radiator post haste.
Right, like we need 4 more of these. Come on,
please.
I want another. I want another Strange Raimi movie. I think that they're just a perfect fit, and it's just.
He works very well with the material, the vibe, and all of that. So,
and it's all the horror tributes. Like he does a moment of straight up J horror when she's coming out of the gong and she's like contorting. He does the haunted house horror with Sinister Strange. He does his own brand of horror. He has a slasher when she's chasing them through the tunnel. Like it's
all of the boxes, and I mean it's almost a study in horror.
I don't
for sure.
I don't know if it was an intentional reference, but like it hit me as an intentional reference. The Black Bolt's death. I have no mouth, but I must scream. That is one of my favorite horror short stories and sci-fi in general. And like,
you know what?
That was one of the best.
If that's your truth,
I live my truth.
Live it.
As a bleak sci-fi fantasy.
And this is to all listeners. So, like, live your truth, except the one where like this ruined Wanda's character. This was not
whatever, man.
Like, no,
that's not true.
Go sit down and have some fun.
No, I mean, and what I like about the horror elements overall is like, does this give them permission to go more horror with Blade?
I hope so. Like, here's what. Yes, I hope so for that. I hope they're realizing here that every character falls into many genres but favors one, and it's in your best interest to follow that favor. Right? Strange works with the fantasy, the horror, the obscure, and the occult. Go with that. Like, don't feel like everybody's got to be, symbol on the chest and hands at the shoulder or hands at the hip, like hero. Like, interact with what works with the characters to get the best and most entertaining story and most real story. I think anything else wouldn't have felt right. Like,
I mean, like, one of my first notes, which I took notes during the movie because I'm a nerd.
Because she's a nerd.
I am a nerd.
They're so cute.
Thank you. So one of my first notes
was it I'm sorry, was it No Way Home you brought a notebook?
No.
Or what was the movie?
It was, oh man, it was a horror movie.
It wasn't Saw, was it?
Yes, it was.
It was
Saw. I didn't take a single note.
Meg was so adorable.
Why did you bring a notebook to Saw?
Because we were covering it on the podcast for one thing, and also I wanted to catch all the references of like, oh yeah, that's a reference to Saw 3. That's a reference to Saw 1. But anyway,
hey, real quick, I love you guys, but they're my favorite. Like, just in case it wasn't
understandable.
I mean,
anyway, but I probably completely derailed that.
No, I know where I'm going because I've been holding on to it with an iron grip. So I took notes, and one of my first notes was during the fight with the giant eye monster. This is the most superhero stuff we've gotten in a very long time in Marvel, and that was spectacular.
Important question for the guests: is that eyeball monster a kaiju?
Yes.
What do you?
I think it counts. I think it counts.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. It's
yes.
kaiju.
All right. Consensus. It's a kaiju. All right. So Doctor Strange 2 is a kaiju film.
Yeah.
And Brad brings up a great point, just supporting what we're talking about. Yeah, like play to the strengths. Deadpool has to be R-rated.
It has to be. He
Doctor
has to make
Strange
masturbation jokes. Like
has to Doctor Strange has to bend towards horror. Like it doesn't have to be as explicit as this. Like I really don't. They've been really great so far in not duplicating, even if they pass torches to other directors and everything. Like continuing to be original is a strength of Marvel, I believe. But it bend towards what works for the characters. I think it's in their favor. I don't think they're coming to us for wisdom. But Kevin, if you're listening, Kevin Feige, by the way.
Oh yeah, we know more Kevins than you.
Kev is always listening, but Feige, if you're listening, bruh, Doctor Strange is a horror character. Just work with it.
Blade also horror, like
Ghost Rider, Blade.
Ghost Rider is very much.
I am so excited for you talk about Nerd Herder After Dark. I'm excited for MCU After Dark. I am excited for this era of bending towards the weird, the occult, the dark, getting out of the spandex and into the leather.
Yeah. I hope when eventually we get another Ghost Rider story, we lean into the full occultism, Mephisto. Like I don't want Mephisto to show up until Ghost Rider, and I will put that on paper.
I want Mephisto to be a large Satan-looking thing, like he is.
Yeah.
Like I think that the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, despite being a fun movie, like I think it gets a bad rap, but like it's fun. It's definitely not great, but it's fun. And visually, they nailed Johnny Blaze at least. But that the problem is that movie has
he was on a bike, yes.
It has the 2000s sort of like they were scared of going full devil, so it's just a man, and they say that he's the devil. It's like, it's Peter Fonda's Mephisto, and it's like, I want to see, Mephistopheles in hell, who's like 9 feet tall with a cloak, and he's red, and like I want the whole nine. And I think that now we're at a place where they will finally do that. I mean, after Khonshu and Amit, like everything's on the table now. So
I kind of want, and we'll end on this because I'm not going to unpack this thought, but I kind of want Mephisto to be Nicolas Cage.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yes. I want it to be that ridiculous. I endorse it.
Where's the pillow?
Let it happen.
Where did he go?
It's down there.
Where is Pillicus Cage?
That's a really good thought. If you say Pelliculus.
Pillicus Cage.
Pillicus Cage.
Yep. You know what? You heard it here first. If you need someone to go in there and be Satan dialed up to like 17, that's your guy.
J-Dub endorsed. You heard it here first.
That.
That will be the first Nicolas Cage movie I enjoy.
I'm surprised that came from you.
Yeah.
Like, my thing is, Mephisto's been such a joke and meme at this point. I want it to be that ridiculous.
I want it to be a Tonwear style reveal.
I want a Robert Rodriguez Spy Kids 2 level of I'm the kid and just cut. Like, no,
directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Right.
Yes.
Like, we got Elijah Wood.
Robert Rodriguez's Ghost Rider would be insane.
That would be
Robert
awesome.
Rodriguez is the Ghost Rider. How about that?
That would be bananas.
It's a puppet that plays guitar.
Oh my god.
Okay, now I'm fully invested in a Robert Rodriguez Ghost Rider film. Great.
That would be phenomenal.
There we go.
That's a mind worm.
Crush that. You would crush it.
Well, here, we turn it over to our listeners at this point because this madness is getting to its end. What do you guys want to see? Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you like us and like to get us. Or leave it in the comments here. If you watch, make sure you like this.
Whisper it into one of your shoes.
Hey, maybe share it. If you like it, share it. Let somebody in on this madness that they will quickly rate it 1 star. But
I'll fight them.
All the stars go to our guests. We continue to keep the trend alive. We waste all of our money on the best of guests, and so guys, thank you so much for joining us for this. It's honestly not even fair because we love you so much.
I know.
Like
I know. I'm going to your closet after this, man.
Right.
That's true.
It's not really work for us, and that's the best kind. So, but if our listeners love you just as much, Kev, why don't we start with you? Where can our listeners find you if they want more of you?
No, don't, because you don't want more of this. Yeah,
I guarantee they do.
at @Force_losers on Twitter. We occasionally put out a podcast.
When the spirit moves.
I'm gonna so before off camera, because we do that. We talk before we talk to you, lovely listeners. Sorry, but before that, like Kevin was buttering up Alden, which rightfully so. It just a lovely being. We'll get to Alden, but like for you, like I would judge anyone that doesn't like Kev.
Exactly.
Kev and Brad, but like
mostly Kev. I love you, Brad.
No, you just got thrown under the bus.
Brad.
I haven't been mean to Brad in a very long time, so like I got to.
Brad, like I love you, buddy, but you look like the guy that thinks that like turning on the water in the shower just washes your legs. Like you gotta loofah and soap that, buddy.
Why are you me right now?
Seriously, all the love to Brad. He's the brains of Force Losers, but Kev,
really
you are
is.
definitely the heart.
He really is.
And yeah, I would judge anybody that's just like, I don't know about that Kev guy. I don't know about Force Loser. No, good people, get them in your ears. They're so fun. Follow them and their madness. Be sure to follow. Be sure to follow Brad too. Give him the love.
You know what?
Hashtag Short Kings.
I think I did better than Kev at plugging his own.
You
show.
did. You totally did. I suck at plugging my own stuff.
I will expect my check in the mail, sir. I take nacho cheese and pickles.
Can do. Can do. I also send like a full care package of Monopoly money, so at least you feel like you've been paid something.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, that's what my job pays me.
We'll make it rain. Alden.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to hear about the tapestry?
Oh, the tapestry you can hear anywhere I am, even online or in person. If you just like come wake me up, I'll wake up in a cold sweat, ready to talk about it. But you can find me at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ on Twitter and Instagram, and then on Octo Radio, a Star Wars podcast, which is my show, the main show, interviewing people around Star Wars and in the business, and work for Lucasfilm. I just did Shelby Young on the voice of Princess Leia. So if you like Lego The Skywalker Saga and you enjoy Leia in that game, check that out. Also have the Rebels rewatch with Nikki Kumar on that feed. I do a podcast called The One and Done Film Club, which will be back soon. And then Star Wars Celebration. If you're going to be there, I will be there. Saturday, I'm on a panel that Saturday morning. So more on that on Twitter and social medias and all that stuff. And yeah. And you can find me at the Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles across the street from the convention center every night.
All the hottest cakes.
Yes.
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
And the friedest chicken.
Yes. And you're here. You're with us. So just check the important links in the description for that. Also, continue to check out, if you aren't already following Amidala Helps, do that for the Amidala Initiative. All kinds of, there's 77 awesome podcasts supporting this initiative. Just an effort to promote Equality Texas and the efforts they're doing to reach LGBTQ plus people, especially trans folks affected by legislation, and just trying to live life.
We're coming up on
in
Pride
Texas.
Month.
But
my state sucks.
Like raffles, all kinds of things. Like if it, you can help with incentive. If it gets you to help and check out supporting a good cause, then hey, do it. Win the bag or the book or whatever. But definitely check it out and follow for updates. And follow us for updates as well. We took last week off unintentionally because Gremlins ate the network. Life gets lifey.
The internet of madness, yes.
But we fully intend to podcast every week till we die, and so we will be back next week. You're the responsible one. Do you remember what we're talking about?
No.
That's bad.
No.
I'm on next week and I forgot. So
You
all three of us forgot. Attack of the Clones. That's why.
Yes. That lovely. You talk about camp. You talk about fun. Attack of the Clones is turning 20, almost able to drink. We will drink.
I said I was going to get a birthday cake for it. I will do that.
There's still time because we're not talking about it till next Friday. Live at 9 as always. But if you check it out after the fact, we still appreciate you. We appreciate our patrons too, because they're the only ones paying for this. and to that we say sorry.
This was your choice.
But love you guys. Love our listeners. So appreciative of you, and look forward to being back having more nerdy, crazy conversations. But until then, what's our nerdy equivalent to stay scruffy? We don't have one.
We don't have one.
Stay multiverse of madnessy. No, that's not right. Stay marvel. No, that's not right.
Stay stucky.
Stay stucky.
Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.